Hey folks, this is BestInSlot and welcome to something a little bit different. Today we're going to do a Jurassic World Evolution 2 speed build. This was inspired by a couple of different things. The first is that recent influx we've had of those Dominion ads, the Winter Olympic ads with Winter Olympic athletes and dinosaurs in the wild together. And then the other day you'll have seen in my Mods of the Week Spotlight video that we looked at a Dominion Parasaurolophus mod made by Mega Gaming Rex. And I thought, you know what, why don't we try to combine those two together? So that's what we're going to do today. We're going to build a little standalone habitat, not connected to another park or anything like that, just its own funky little thing. I'm down with the kids. Shingo Shango. And it's just going to be a standalone habitat. We're going to build like a mountainous range. We're going to build like a big frozen lake. Well, it's going to be water, but it's going to look like a big frozen lake, and we're going to have our Dominion Parasaurs wander around it. Unfortunately, I couldn't mod in a professional ice skater. That was not possible in the time frame, but maybe one day. Maybe we'll get George back, and he can be our professional ice skater. So, all I've done is flatten the area. Of course, we're using the expanded maps mod, and flatten the area, cover it with snow, and then build a lake roughly in the shape. I'm going to bring up an image. I'll bring it up at the end. I'm going to show you the images that I was working from. Basically just took screenshots of the videos. You could do this without mods, but it's not going to look nearly as effective. Really, you need expanded terrain tools, you need expanded maps, stuff like that to really give you the creative control, especially with the mountain ranges we're going to want to build. You know, it's a mountain, you want them to be sharp and spiky and brrrg, and you can't really do that with Evolution 2's default terrain tools, which kind of just make big hills more than anything else. They don't really make mountains. You'll see we can get like very, very sharp edges here thanks to the terrain tools. Very, very tall, pointy mountains. You just can't do that by default, unfortunately. So, I mean, this is basically what it's going to be. It's going to be a big mountain range. I am trying to match it to the actual video. It's not just a random range. It is matched to that video. And making it, you know, decent size. It should all feel big and imposing. It ends up way too big, I believe, but you know, that's not necessarily a bad thing. And then we're going to bring some parasaurs in and get some nice sort of glamour shots at the end. I just wanted to do something a little bit different. I like the idea of doing this a little bit going forward. We used to do this kind of thing in Zoo Tycoon every now and again. Why not do it in something else? So that's the backdrop of the mountains now. I will give you some little pointers and tips on doing this kind of thing for yourself as we go through as well. But for now, I'm just kind of getting some rough shapes in. You're going to see a lot of the flatten tool. Just making sure the water's in the right place, making sure the mountains are in the right sort of place, making sure everything is bingo, bango, shingo, shango, where it should be. One of the main problems I had instantly was that the mountain's very skinny, and you can kind of feel that. Mountains aren't flat, and they're not just points. You know, they've got depth to them. They're big, rugged slabs of rock that jut out in so many different directions. And I think people have a habit, myself included, of making them too skinny, too thin, and you kind of feel that lack of depth in them. So it's going to be quite important to round them out eventually. But right now I'm really just, as I say, getting the approximate shapes in there. If you see me using the flatten tool on the top, that's the idea though. It's to round those mountains out a little bit more. Don't know why we're doing the sound effects, but we are. Just deal with it. So just making a little room. If you watch the video, you'll see what it basically is. It's this big frozen lake. I've had to use the water. We don't have ice, obviously. I did consider using the ocean, and then what you can do with the expanded map mods is build your land right up to the top of the water, and it didn't look as good as just using plain old water, unfortunately. So I decided against that. I'm just going to use the water brush. But the parasaurs, basically, our dude, I can't remember his name is Dude. Dude is spinning around on the ice. He's being all Olympian, being all hua, you know, as people tend to do. And then he sort of spins around, he turns around, and behind him, coming out of this massive crevice in the mountains, like this sort of thin path, these parasaurs emerge. Now, the mountains looked okay, but the trick really is, if you want effective mountains, weirdly enough, is, as you'll see, the flatten terrain tool. The flatten terrain tool makes these really nice... You'll see it happening here. We're making these really cool mountainous patterns in the rock, and it ends up looking really, really good. It just creates all these different shapes and formations. And if some areas are a little bit too square, you want to round it out, all you do is smooth it a little bit. You don't go hard on the smooth tool, you go quite light, but you just throw a little smooth in there, and yeah, you'll see that. So instead of like making a point with the raise tool, which is what you would think to do typically, I think what we do is we bring it up, we flatten it, and then we dig into the side of the mountain like so. using the flatten tool, and that creates a jagged, much more jagged edge, but also a much more realistic edge, because the terrain tools in this game naturally lean very soft, as you can see, and we want them to be jagged and rock-like instead. That's my top tip. Flatten terrain, best way to make mountains. Even if you're making hills and you're not using expanded terrain tools, you know, even if you're playing on console, just make a big old hill and attack it with a flatten tool, and it will look more mountainous at the very least. It'll look more rock-like than it would if you just used the default raise up, raise lower tools, stuff like that. Now, there's just snow at the moment. We're going to be chucking some rock in a little bit. Part of me thinks the rock is what ruined this. I'm not totally sure. I'm not really decided. I'm not even decided this was a good idea. I'm not even decided if I'm going to upload this at this point in time. But it was fun to do. It's fun to experiment with. And the mod is absolutely beautiful. The Dominion power looks absolutely fantastic in game. So I really wanted to showcase it in a cool, sort of unique environment. Something that's related to what's going on right now. Maybe we'll do this for the other Dominion dinosaurs, in the other adverts. Maybe when the trailer comes out, we'll do some recreations. Maybe we'll do it in Planet Zoo. Who knows? That's the fun. Maybe we'll do it in Prehistoric Kingdom. Who knows? That's the fun. Anyway, so just flattening this area at the start. This, of course, is where the paras are going to emerge from, going... That's what Parasaurolophus sounds like. I actually did the sound effects for Jurassic World Dominion. Crazy. We're going to throw some rocks in. Not yet. We'll get rid of that. Yeah. We're going to throw some rocks in. There were some black rocks on the ground in the trailer. In the video, in the advertisement. And I didn't want to go too great, like... The rocks are way smaller than the mountains, so it's not like you can kind of integrate them into the mountain shape itself, and then, I'm saving this just in case, and then you kind of do that kind of thing. That's not going to work. So what we have to do is little rocks on the ground, and then use the big rock terrain tool on the actual rock around the side, because this is kind of what it looked like. It's this deep black rock, and then the flatter portions is where you're going to have the snow. I think this bit looked really good. It's the other side I'm less convinced on, but it worked really well here with those that sharp sheer walls that are then covered in stone. The problem is the terrain tool again is very soft by default, right? It's very rounded, it's very curvy, which is usually a good thing, but here it's just a little bit too curvy, and it kind of doesn't super suit rock necessarily. Annoyingly, it's the same with Planet Zoo. Frontier clearly have like these beautiful textured mountains, but we can't make them ourselves. We don't have access to the same texture tools that they do. So a little annoying, but it is what it is. But when it's just white, it doesn't look natural. You know, most mountains are very, very rocky, and maybe there's more snow as you get to the top, and I'll be lowering the amount of rock in there over time. Might do a little bit more work on it. But drink. A little reference there. Such an obscure reference, God. Yeah, what am I on about? I was saying words. I bet they were super exciting. I don't know what they were, though. But yeah, I thought I'd try something different today. Let me know what you think. Obviously, we're still doing our sandbox build in the Dinosaur Canyon. But I like the idea of being able to do standalones. I've got another one in mind that wouldn't really fit the canyon, but it'd be a lot of fun to build. And I think it's just a nice way to try out different things and different techniques. And there is our mountain range. It actually looks pretty good there, actually. I take back what I said. I decided to put a little bit of snow on there just to lighten it up a little bit more. And but yeah, it actually looks alright. You know, I'm coming around to it. I've changed my mind. Maybe I make it worse when I start messing around here. Turning storms on because we want, you know, a nice big blizzard. And we've got our parasaurs coming in. I'm going to send them around the side. Now, of course, we do have a slight problem. And there is actually an invisible fence mod, which I should have absolutely downloaded. But I didn't. So I'm weaving the fence around the back of the mountain so that the parasaurs at least can't escape the area. It does mean they will climb up the mountain. And they will look bizarre doing it. Totally understandable. Frontier did not expect people to build mountains like this. They obviously can't accommodate for that. There's really no way for a parasaur to climb a sheer cliff and not look a little bit weird. But at least they can't escape now. And if you downloaded the invisible fence mod, you could put it at the base of the mountain instead, and that would be a lot more effective. Now, I think we're nearly done. We've got about 20 seconds left. So that's about it from me, actually. So I'm not going to talk for the entire rest of the thing. All I'm going to do now is I've recorded some lovely pretty shots of our parasaurs exploring this new environment. You can see what it looks like. Hopefully it's inspired you to do some of your own builds. Hopefully it's given you some ideas. If you want to see more of this kind of thing, feel free to let me know in the comment section down below. I'm down to try some slightly funkier stuff with Jurassic World Evolution 2, some speed builds. I've got a little something I want to try because of that recent, you saw my video the other day we did with the Leopleurodon in the flooded forest kind of thing. Well, there was another modded creature released fairly recently that would suit it perfectly. It would be an incredible build, so really want to work on that as well. And I feel like I prefer this in a way more than the parks, because it means I don't have to build. I'm trying to get the Parasaurs to move here, by the way. I'm trying to get them towards the water. I don't have to worry about, you know, guests and stuff like that. I can just build whatever takes my fancy. I kind of like that idea, but we'll do both for a little bit. Anywho, right, so that's it. Enjoy some Parasaur shots. Throw me a like if you enjoyed the video, and me prattling on for 10 whole minutes, which is a very short amount of time, it must be said. And that's about it for me. So thank you for joining me. Cheers, much love as always. Of course, stick around to see this in action in just a moment. Cheers, much love as always. Again, I really can't say goodbye today. I'm just gonna miss you guys so much. Bye.
Reaching out.